At first, it was chaos over something small. Sudden shout, an exaggerated fear, and a half-serious accusation filled the room. One of them froze in place, convinced that the night had been invaded by cockroaches, while the other reacted with disbelief, half annoyed and half amused. The panic felt childish, but it carried something deeper, an unspoken tension that had been lingering long before the lights were turned off. What started as a joke quickly turned into irritation, and irritation slipped into sarcasm. The room grew quiet, heavy with words that had already been said, and many more that hadn't. Eventually, exhaustion won. They stopped arguing not because things were resolved, but because sleep felt easier than continuing.
Ow.
The question of where to sleep became its own battle. The floor was mentioned, then rejected. The bed became an option again, but only with conditions. An invisible boundary was drawn, a symbolic line meant to protect distance and pride. One side for one person, one side for the other. No crossing, no misunderstanding. It was a childish rule, but it gave them a sense of control in a moment when emotions felt dangerously close. As the lights went out, silence settled in, but it wasn't peaceful. Sharing the same bed didn't mean sharing the same thoughts. Lying inches apart, both were wide awake, listening to each other breathe. That closeness made avoidance impossible. One of them finally broke the silence, questioning why the other seemed so calm, almost detached. What did it really mean to sleep in the same bed? Was it just about rest? Or did it carry a meaning they were both pretending not to acknowledge? The conversation shifted from humor to honesty. An apology surfaced, hesitant but sincere. It wasn't dramatic or loud, but it was heavy. There was regret in the voice, a recognition of mistakes that had been ignored for too long. Control had been mistaken for care. Decisions had been made without consent. Boundaries had been crossed in the name of love, without ever asking what love actually looked like from the other side. That realization didn't come easily. It was born from days of reflection, moments of guilt, and quiet self-questioning. Interfering in someone's life, arranging their path, assuming what was best, all of it now felt wrong. Good intentions didn't erase the damage. Love, they realized, wasn't about management. It wasn't about deciding for someone else. It was about listening, asking, and respecting space. The apology continued, slower now, more thoughtful. A promise followed. From now on, there would be permission instead of assumption, support instead of interference. Love would be offered in the way it was needed, not in the way it was easiest to give. There was no demand for instant forgiveness, only a request for time. Time to learn, time to change. The response came unexpectedly, not with anger, but with laughter. It wasn't mocking, just surprised. Hearing such a long, careful confession felt strange, almost unreal. It sounded like a written essay instead of a late-night conversation. But beneath the humor was something softer, relief. Relief that the truth was finally spoken aloud. Calm replaced tension. Differences were acknowledged instead of denied. They came from different worlds shaped by different habits and beliefs. Even small things like food preferences or daily routines had once caused unnecessary friction. What used to feel like a problem now felt insignificant. Differences didn't mean incompatibility. They were simply reminders that two people didn't need to be identical to walk the same path. What mattered was intention. As long as both were moving in the same direction, trying to protect rather than control, there was hope. Communication became the new agreement. No more guessing, no more silent resentment. Honesty, even when uncomfortable, would be the foundation. With that understanding, the imaginary boundary lost its purpose. The line on the bed no longer made sense. It had served as protection when trust felt fragile, but now it felt unnecessary. Reconciliation didn't require distance, required sincerity. Still, promises came with conditions. Certain habits couldn't return. Certain behaviors had to be left behind, even if they were hard to explain. Not everything needed immediate understanding. Some things only needed respect. And that was enough for now. Peace slowly settled into the room. Not the dramatic kind, but a quiet one. It's a kind that repeats itself in the mind until it feels real. Peace of mind. Peace of mind. Peace of mind. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Elsewhere, life continued. Responsibilities didn't pause for emotional breakthroughs. Money was transferred. Instructions were given. Warnings were shared. Be careful. Don't act impulsively. Stay alert. Even in moments of closeness, the outside world demanded attention. And yet, returning to the bed felt different, now lighter, safer. Sleep, however, remained elusive. A small movement broke the silence again. One of them shifted, unaware, and the other immediately noticed. Accusations followed, half serious, half playful. You moved. You woke me up. Denial came quickly. The movement had been minimal, almost non-existent, but the truth was obvious. Neither of them had been asleep. How could they be? When the person lying beside you feels like your entire world, sleep becomes difficult. Every breath matters. Every shift is noticed. The awareness of presence is too strong to ignore. The forgotten line was remembered again, then dismissed just as quickly. Rules were easier to forget when comfort replaced fear. The closeness no longer felt dangerous. It felt natural, safe, familiar. They stayed still after that, not because they were afraid to move, but because staying felt right. Tomorrow could bring uncertainty, but for now, this moment was enough. A simple promise was whispered into the darkness, not to disappear, not to walk away without explanation, not to leave silence behind. Outside, the city continued its restless motion. Lights flickered, cars passed. Strangers lived their lives without knowing what had changed in this quiet room. But inside, something had shifted. Love was no longer loud or controlling. It was gentle, patient, learning. Sometimes peace doesn't come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from sharing space without trying to own it. From holding someone close without tightening your grip. From understanding that love is not about crossing lines, but about knowing when they are no longer needed.